If anybody want to mine for gold, there's gold there, and a real gold. Not, and
all you want is ducks.
hey. And what else? Was there something else?
Bocce.
And bocce, we got bocce. So, and then anybody that wants to drink whatever you want. And we've got every kind, so it don't matter. And if you can't see it, ask it. I'll get it. Even water.
I was going to say, do you have water?
Yeah. Anybody drink water would squat to pee.
You're the authority on Jack, you know.
Yeah, you just don't mind.
What's your most memorable experience?
But, you know,
Oh, good Lord. Over 60 years, there's been a lot of them. But all in all, a very wonderful life.
Don't you get embarrassed?
That's wonderful.
Now, we've had up times and down times, but more up than down. So it's been a good, yeah, it's been a, if somebody told me 60 years ago that I'd been married 60 years, I probably wouldn't have believed them, but.
Well, what's your earliest recollection of a birthday of Jack's then?
and that's the competitive edge now. You say,
Oh, of a birthday?
One of the real early ones.
No, birthdays haven't been really big. We don't, I don't know, not until we've got older that we've really celebrated birthdays. No, they come and they go, another year.
I suppose he's always kind of celebrated with Doug.
Yes, yeah. If possible, they've always got together, and which is great.
for the best customer service.
I didn't know what it was.
You'll find out. So I wonder if you could tell us about one of your earliest recollections of Doug and Jack's birthdays when they were maybe young.
Oh, 80 years ago today.
Oh yeah, tell us about that. Don't block the mic.
Dad took us to the hospital, Lorraine and I to the hospital to see our twin brothers. And when we got there, Mom said to us that we had to choose a twin. Well, the nurse came in with Jack first, and Lorraine said immediately, "That's my twin." And I said to her, "Well, wait, we haven't seen the other one yet." So Lorraine and I had to look after Jack and take our turns, but I just started school. So Lorraine would have to get up 5 o'clock in the morning with Mom when she had to get up and nurse the twins or something. And one morning she said, "Oh, Mom, why did you have two babies?" Well, when I came home from school, it was my turn to look after them. And I had to, and one day Mom put me in a big rocking chair, leather rocking chair, a twin on each arm on a cushion, while she dashed down to the corner store. She came back. I had rocked the chair right up against the big heater. Two babies, I was asleep, they were asleep, and the chair was on fire. So that's Lorraine and I raised Jack and Doug. We had to feed them. And I can remember for their supper lots of times it was bread and milk and brown sugar, and we loved it. So we'd take a spoonful and we'd sneak a spoonful if Mom wasn't watching. It was so good. Oh, I remember them as babies quite well. I remember when they started creeping on their bums, sliding on the hard wax floor. Yeah, it's quite 80 years ago. Seems impossible.
That was very...
Your youth. So what's your earliest recollection of celebrating your birthday?
Today?
Yeah, 2 years ago. I think we were about 3 or 4, somewhere in there. Out in the country.
Going to Christina Lake?
Hey?
At Christina Lake?
Christopher Lake.
Christopher Lake, sorry, Christopher Lake.
Yeah, I think it was there. My dad had a homestead there. 20-acre big deal. He was from born in I think Idaho, somewhere's down there.
Iowa?
Midford, Iowa. Yeah. And then he was 82 when he passed away, but he was living in Bellingham then. Him and Mum separated when I was about 8 years old, and 9 years old. And he went back down the States. And like I say, I would have had both dual citizenship, but in what 1950 or something. But anyway, I voted here and I lost it. Doug's still got dual citizenship, and I was going to go get it. And years ago, I could have got it for $150, and I went to get it, and they wanted what the hell they wanted
I have no idea what you're talking
I
about.
think $3,000. It was way up, way up. I said, I don't need it. Well, otherwise, I would have had. It would have been good for the grandchildren, eh? Because then Dave would have had no problems getting into the States and working there and that.
Well, May was saying you never really celebrated your birthday very much until recently.
No, not really. No.
Except for a few beers.
But I don't know. We did. I just never did celebrate many birthdays. What the hell for?
What made you get into cars? The car business?
Well, I was when I was 12 years old. I bought a bicycle rental business. See? I'd been.
I thought we were ready.
I've been running, delivering groceries and delivering papers.
Go in the kitchen, help yourself.
And I bought this business, 18 bicycles. I rent them out for 2 bits an hour. When I was 12, I bought it, and I run it for 2 years, and then I sold it. But I had a balloon-tired bicycle, and that was my pride and joy. I didn't rent it out. And a guy had a Model T car, and I traded him for it. And I drove the damn Model T home. And that was something, because I was 14. By the time I was 16, I owned 17 different cars. Bought and sold them. And the big thing was that I used to tell the people, I overhauled this myself. It wasn't done by a mechanic. So, and if somebody had told me that, I would have run the other way, because I didn't know anything about cars. But I learned. And then I took a 5-year course, and then I did know. But I just buying and selling, and so I went into it in selling in 1953 full time. Yeah, in 1958 I guess I was mechanicing then. Can't remember when I opened the garage.
Put down on Stewart Avenue? No, Dan would have been 10.
Oh, 63. I opened it in 63. Honest John, they
Settle
used
on Nanaimo.
Hey?
Why did you settle on Nanaimo?
Well, Doug and Glenn and my mother were out here. And I come out in 1948 for a holiday trip. I think it's 49. But anyway, I went to the Chrysler garage there and was talking to the owner, and I said I'd be looking for a job as a mechanic. He asked me all about experience of that, and I told him, and he said, well, start Monday morning. I said, well, I can't. Why not? I said, well, I haven't given notice at the garage where I work in Prince Albert. He said, well, how long do you need? I said, a month. You only needed a week, really, but I've been there 5 years, and I wasn't going to just up and leave them then. And so I give them a month's notice, and then I come out here in 49. And we come across in that ferry $2. $5 for a car, $2 for a person. And now it's $60 for a person. Yeah. But I started work as a mechanic in the Chrysler garage. I've been working ever since. I've never been out of work.
So,
So what are your recollections of having two younger brothers?
Well, having to look after them during their formative years in school, I had to fight all their battles. And
You were the big brother.
I was the big brother, and I got the black eyes on their behalf.
Because they're probably
Well, they caused the trouble at school. And from then on, I had to bail them out. So.
And you still are.
Yes. Yeah, it's still that way. So, at any rate, they did manage to do well without me when I had to leave. So, I'm very proud of them.
Well, you used to make a good politician, Glenn.
Glenn who? He was never around. He was always working out in the receiver's farm. We never saw him. And then when he came back, the war started, and he went overseas. We never saw him except when he got on leave. And then there was always some chick waiting for him. Thank God eventually he used his head and married Eileen. Otherwise, he'd have been lost. And he didn't fight any battles for Jack and I. And Jimmy LaBrache did. And he beat up on a guy that kept beating up on Jack.
Hold him down.
He never fought me because he knew better. Because I would really smear him.
Bring them down.
During the winter, this guy would be waiting behind a hedge, and Jack and I were coming home from separate school, St. Paul's, and he'd jump out and beat up on Jack. I don't know why. He never bothered me, and I couldn't fight him. His name was Mike Kopecki. So we told Jimmy LaBrache about him, and Jimmy waited behind that hedge, and when Mike jumped out, Jimmy went at him and beat the can out of him. He never bothered Jack again. That's my story.
Mike Kopecki's
I mean, it's Timberway. Who was it?
Well, anyway, he was a bully. But I'll tell you, Jack was born 5 minutes before me, Jeff, and he was in such a hurry to get out, he left his brains behind, and I got him.
It wasn't like Crown Zeller
Well,
back.
I was just wondering, were twins a surprise, or did your mom know that you were twins?
Or anybody had it. It was Yubo, and they had the
I don't know,
log. They had the timber.
but we're fraternal twins. But my wife Amy and her sister Alice were identical twins. So much so that I used to confuse them, especially if they wore the same clothes. You don't know what it's like slapping one on the back side and then it's the wrong one. But the worst thing was we were 3 nights out on our honeymoon and I realized I had the wrong one.
It's better. I can talk to you now.
Yeah.
So, you're Jack's first daughter-in-law.
I am.
What's your earliest recollection of meeting him?
Let me just see. Dan and I started going out in 1969. And I met Jack and Mom and Dad that fall. So the fall is 69. And I think the first time I met them, we went down to the car dealership when Jack had the JT Auto Sales down on Terminal Avenue.
I just wondered where you were.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, you'll be a fine catch for Dan?
Well, I don't think he quite knew because I've been working.
The time you were a girlfriend.
Yeah, how is it? Can I tell the story? No, don't you dare tell us stories.
Jack didn't know.
Well, he did tell me later that I was the worst thing that had ever happened to his wife because she learned to say no, and I'm not going to do that. So, Lorraine, shut up.
Oh, you mean you stood up to him, and that wasn't something Jack was accustomed to.
You know, he'd had, I think, probably women in his life that he thought he could buffalo. And then I came along and came from a family of very strong women, and So we had our moments in the beginning, but after that, but I've always loved him. He's a super father-in-law.
He seems to have mellowed a bit in his old age.
Yes, he has.
Not old age, but you know.
I think he became, as we all do, more tolerant and less volatile as we age.
You know, I remember taking a ride with Jack through downtown Vancouver, and he was driving a little Renault, right? Mm-hmm. Honking at all the girls.
I think he still does. I don't think that's changed at all.
The truth now.
Okay, so you're
The second
the first
oldest. No, I'm the second oldest grandchild because my sister is the oldest.
Right.
And so we know everything about everybody because we've been there from the beginning.
Because you were so close in age.
Two. Yeah, because I'm only 14 years younger than the twins.
Right.
That's scary. No, that can't be.
Did I tell you the family trends? Did I explain the family trends?
No.
Well, all the Hall girls married men with the last names ending in B-E-R-T, like Albert, Hubert, Robert.
Oh, interesting.
Jack married May, and Doug married an anagram of May.
Yeah, Amy, yeah.
Does that strike you as strange or just coincidence?
Very interesting. But you know what? I have never seen a set of siblings so close. Never, ever, ever.
As Jack and Doug.
No,
all
six of them.
Yeah.
Absolutely, horrifically. I don't know if it's horrifically, but like just wonderful. And they all have their own versions of their upbringing, which I find quite interesting and conflicting. And I always lean to Auntie Audrey because I thought that she told it the way it was.
Yeah.
She had the most realistic. Yeah, she always. But it's interesting. I was going to say.
Yeah, but your mom and my mom were the protectors.
Yeah, but they're the queens of denial also. You know. Yeah. But I was absolutely, you know, like when Mom told us that story about. Just in more recent years about her and Madeleine raising the twins. I mean, it was awesome. And that's one of her favorite stories now in her dementia. Yeah. Is she, you know, when she goes out with her companions and that, she tells that story all the time. So it really stuck with her. Yeah. And I said to her, well, Mom, who looked